Hi, I'm Dan Costa, the Chief Content Officer at Worth Media Group, and I am at the Milken Global Conference here in Los Angeles. I am joined at the moment by Tamsen Fadal. She's an Emmy Award-winning journalist, an advocate for women's health, and the author of several books. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
So, this is an incredible conference. Tell me a little bit about what you're presenting on here and women's health in general.
Yeah, absolutely. When we were talking about investing in women's health, the future of women's health, and I think we're seeing the need in so many different ways, and so it's exciting. Anytime I see it being brought to the global scale, in a global audience like this, I know that we're going to get somewhere, and it's a matter of time, and it's about innovation, and it's about research, and of course, it's about dollars.
This is and I think let's talk about the dollars, because this is a financial conference. The amount of spending that's being dedicated towards women's health care pales in comparison to men, and the challenge being women actually generally live longer than men. Can you talk a little bit about what trends you're seeing, what some of the things people might find surprising?
Yeah, I think I'm hopeful in a lot of different ways. When we look at women's health, I focus mostly on perimenopause and menopause, and that just is kind of like very, very small sums in the grand scheme of things. And so I'm hopeful the more that we talk about it, the more we're talking about the longevity conversation, and looking at the different things that women are tackling, whether it's a heart or a brain or bone, and we're talking about those constantly. And I think the good news about that is that if we're talking about an early detection with those or early prevention with those, then we can get to a better place long term. But I get excited when I see the conversation, when I see the fact that women's health is not just kind of put to the side, but it's taken a main stage.
It's been an educational process for me covering these issues. And the thing that surprises me most is that even the medical community seems to be not completely up to speed on the latest developments and really understanding how menopause works, what treatments are available. I always thought doctors knew everything, but it turns out maybe not so much.
Yeah, it was surprising to me too, and I was always a little hesitant when I was going out there with information because I thought, I want to make sure, but the truth of the matter is that due to the fact that women's health in general, but particularly in midlife, was not something that was studied. It was definitely underserved in so many different areas, definitely underfunded. A lot of this wasn't taught in medical school, in particular about perimenopause and menopause, so it's really been a game of catch up. There are a lot of doctors that are not comfortable talking about it, a lot that say I had up to a month, if that much, of training in medical school, and I'm on my own learning about it now, or trying to figure out how to do it with continuing medical education. And so I think that it's important, though, for women to know that, so they know that there's a place for them in terms of taking charge of their own health, and not to be afraid of that, and not to think that if they walk into a doctor and a doctor says, oh, this is just all in your head, or this is age, or this is normal, to accept something like that and to really push forward. Because when we go back to that longevity conversation, there are a lot of long-term health risks that come during this time, if you're not paying attention to it, that you will see long-term.
What are some of the surprising things that you've learned as you've studied this, if you've researched it, that are sort of common misunderstandings?
Yeah, I think one of the common misunderstandings, obviously, is the fact that all doctors know everything about menopause, and that's not the case. I think one of the other ones is thinking that, it all kind of happens the same way when we're older, and that's just simply not true. Perimenopause can happen in your early 40s, sometimes in your late 30s, so we all come by it very differently, and I think that was surprising. And then the final thing, I think that I understood hormone therapy, but didn't understand such a misconception about it, and that's been a big learning curve for a lot of women, and it's been a big learning curve for a lot of doctors as well.
You're a storyteller. Tell me, and I think that we've talked a little bit to a couple of people here at the conference about sort of the depiction of aging, and particularly the depictions of women who are older. What's the role of storytelling here in really fundamentally changing the narrative that most people have?
Yeah, it's funny, when I got out of news, I was thinking, okay, I'm not going to really tell stories anymore, because that's what I did for 20 years. And truthfully, I think the only thing that has really moved the needle in a lot of ways is storytelling. I did a documentary in October, and it has been seen in over 400 cities in 42 countries. And it's the stories of women dealing with menopause. It's the stories of doctors not being educated on menopause. It's the stories of what society sees us as women in this age. So I think storytelling is so important, and I think I underestimated what it could do in this space, and I think it's really everything in so many ways.
That's great. Well, you're telling a great story. You're telling a great story here at the conference.
So are you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for giving me a couple of minutes of your time, and I really appreciate it. I'm Dan Costa with Worth. We'll have one of these videos on our YouTube channel. I'll see you there.